Welcome to the Females Across the Pond and Beyond podcast. Hi, I'm Clara.
Hi, I'm Angie. We're here to share all things email and beyond. We go through the trials and tribulations of running your own business, being your own boss, and sending your own email marketing.
As email marketing experts, we're dedicated to helping small businesses thrive so they can have more freedom in their business.
Ready to get started? Let's dive into the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Females Across the Pond and Beyond. Today, we are talking about why sending one email to your entire list doesn't work. We also know this as the spray and pray effect inside of marketing. So if you ever hear that term, that's what it means. It means just kind of sending one email to blasting the whole list. But we're going to talk about why you don't want to do that and what you should be doing instead. Before we get into that, Clara, why don't you just kick it off and let us know what's been going on with you? How's your weekend?
It was quite a chilled one. It's like literally overnight got really cold here. But we went for a nice meal on Saturday night. And I feel like it's time to go pumpkin picking, if that's a thing in the US.
Yes. Oh,
Um,
yes.
oh yeah, you guys, of course, of course. Um, and I think because of you guys, Halloween has become a bigger thing here.
Oh,
So I'm looking forward to that actually. But yeah, I think quite chilled, nothing to report other than a really nice meal on Saturday night. How about you?
well, I have a question first. Like, did you ever dress up for Halloween as a kid?
Not as a kid, because it wasn't that big a thing until I
Really?
say, yeah, it hasn't been a big thing here since I say the last 10 years, but I did go to a lot of Halloween parties as a younger
Uh-huh.
lady.
Uh-huh.
And I loved it. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. I actually bought from a theatre shop, I bought like a gunshot wound and put it on my head, like with makeup.
Nice.
And I got onto a bus and this kid started crying because I actually like put fake blood coming out of the gunshot wound, and she was screaming when she saw me. She's like, she's bleeding, she's bleeding. I was like, wow, this stuff is really good. Um, so yeah, I think before I used to really enjoy the whole fancy dress side of things. Revealing a lot here.
No, it's all good. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, my weekend was good. I feel like the universe is throwing me just a lot of weird things. I don't know what's going on in my astrological chart. If anyone is an astrologer and wants to tell me, like, I'm in a place where I'm just getting kind of hit with a lot of uncomfortable situations, and I want to run and hide. Um, Something happened this weekend where we went apple picking. We took the boys apple picking, and I ran into someone who uh, I was definitely part of them getting fired, and in a corporate setting. And I almost ran into him at the apple picking bar. I saw them and I was like, I told my husband, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so and so. Like, I don't want to see them. But I won't get into all of the details. But yeah, this person was drinking and driving heavily during a conference that we went to. And um,
Wow. I can't
yeah,
believe that. I
yeah.
can't
Isn't that
believe that.
crazy? Yeah. And while I wasn't the one that like ratted them out, they had other instances.
Yeah.
And then HR kind of found out that I knew some things. And yeah, I mean, you have to put company over the person, which can be like
Yeah, of
super
course.
awkward.
Yeah.
But yeah, come to find out this person had multiple run-ins with this kind of situation. And they kind of that was kind of the last straw for the company, rightfully so.
Mm.
And but yeah, they kind of saw me as the reason why they got fired. And I
But
mean, I felt bad, but I was like, I don't
that
know.
I don't think it's you did what you had to do and it was the right thing to do. And this person, it's probably for the best. And that they needed to take some time out to figure out what's going on for them if they're drink
At-
driving. That is not
Oh,
good.
at the end of the day, they needed help, right?
Yeah,
Like,
massively. They could have
Massive
got
help.
into serious trouble. So I think you did them a
Yes.
favor.
Ugh, yeah, it doesn't feel that way though. Not at the time. Oh my gosh.
But you've nothing
Um,
to be ashamed of. Like you have nothing to be ashamed of, in seeing him recently, he should be ashamed,
yeah,
He should be
but
ashamed.
yeah, from what I heard and from what I knew, it was a lot of anger was directed towards me, which is not surprising, right? I mean, when somebody has those kinds of things going on, the last thing they want to do is look in the mirror, right? It's just so much easier to kind of put the
Exactly.
blame on other people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That just says to
so
me he hasn't done the work to, recover and heal. Like he's obviously angry and he needs to, as you say, look in the mirror. So
yeah.
I don't
I don't
blame
know. Who
you for
knows
feeling
though?
that way.
If he would have saw me, like who knows? Maybe he would have been cordial. Maybe he would have been fine. But I did not have the balls.
No, I
I was
understand.
like, I'm avoiding this situation. I live in a small town, y'all. Like, it's too small for my liking. I need to get out of here.
Yeah. Come to the UK.
Oh my God, I would love to. Like, I'm getting a lot of, I love Pride and Prejudice 2005.
Oh my God.
And I'm getting a lot of TikToks where people are visiting like the sites where they filmed the movie. And I'm just like, that is a dream. And I was like, I'm going to go with Clara one day. I'm going to have her take
Yeah.
me to all of these sites.
I don't even know what sites they're looking at, but I'm happy to
Just like
go. Come over.
gardens.
Yeah, there's tons of great places, Kew Gardens. Do you believe this, listeners, that Angie and I have never met in person? So I would love to meet her one
Never.
day. We're on the other side of well, the Atlantic, right?
Yes.
So
But you always talk about moving to the United States,
yeah, I
depending
think
on
it's an
depending on
ambition.
what happens politically here. Totally
Yeah.
understandable.
I think that's definitely I'd love to do that. I think, yeah, if Trump is in power, forget it. It's not going to happen. Um, but because it would change a lot of things, and I just don't want to be in the US under his
Depends.
regime.
It really depends on how our Congress goes, to be honest, too.
Yeah,
Because a lot of our laws, they have to be passed by the House of Representatives first, and then they go to the Senate, and then they get signed.
yeah.
So, yeah, of course, like I don't want Trump to be in power either, but thankfully we do have a democracy. Now, whether or not he succeeds at dismantling that, and if he is elected for the next 4 years, we'll see. But I truly hope not.
Yeah, well, watch this space. Let's see, right? Another month or so until you know.
I'm just like, I don't even, I mean, I want it to be over,
Yeah.
but I'm so nervous that we're going to have another 4 years of having to put up with his shit. Like, I just
So then
can't.
you come to the UK, right? Although I can't promise
Yeah.
you'll be much happier
Yeah.
here. We've got our
Because
own,
it's happening in a lot of
yeah.
places, right? Similar kind of situations.
Yeah, we've got our own stuff to deal with. I was going to swear then. I don't know if we can swear on this podcast,
I don't know.
um, but well,
Okay, let's get
to
into
be
emails.
yeah. Let's get into the topic today.
Yeah, we're going to really talk about who is actually on your list because believe it or not, it's not all one type of person that resides on your list. And the beauty of email marketing is that you can identify different types of people and you can send different content to those types of people. You can't do that on social media, you know? You can kind of do some of that on websites these days. You can add personalization to like headlines and things like that. They have that capability, but typically people don't have that in place.
Mm.
It's kind of a little bit more advanced, but for email marketing, it's not so advanced that a small business owner can't do it. Absolutely can.
Yeah,
So,
there's so much to talk about on this subject actually. So where should we start?
all right. So, we're going to talk about customer, like who is on your list, and let's kind of talk about these different what we call customer profiles. Now that may be like a marketing term. But that's what we're going to call them today for this sake of this episode. So, yeah, I want you to think of, your customers that live in these different pools of your list. And the easiest customer profiles to kind of come up with or think about for any business are new subscribers, people that maybe have just come onto your list. Um, there could also be leads that you call them, where maybe they've been on your list and they haven't bought yet. Then you have one-time customers, people who have bought once. You can have repeat customers, people who have bought multiple times. And then we also like to have, a customer profile of those VIP customers who are like people who just eat up everything that you buy. We love them, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that makes
then
sense.
on the flip side of all of those are maybe like dormant subscribers. So, um, whether they bought from you or not, you can delegate, you can kind of specify between the two if you want, but at the end of the day, like if someone hasn't opened or engaged with you, in however many days, maybe 90 days, 6 months, whatever you want to call it, we'll call them dormant subscribers. So those are a few common customer profiles that even just, creating segments or even thinking about these different profiles and what they might need in order to move to the next stage of the buyer's journey with you might help you and might make it a little bit more simpler to create some email content for them.
Yeah. I mean, the first step is really to identify who these people are, and actually it can be really tricky to know exactly what a customer may want from being on your list unless they've specified at the start. And I always think that you can go in and figure out who your new subscribers are. You can look at who your
Oh, yeah.
repeat customers. These are things you can get easily, more or less, in most platforms. Um, but you may be missing information that leads to like what their preferences are. Maybe um, we don't know enough about what that they're on the list for. So there are kind of, think of it as gaps in our knowledge as to why they're on our list. It could be that you do know, for example, they've attended an event of yours or they've purchased a product. Like we can take a lot from the data inside the email platform, but there are always going to be things that we would still like to know. And that can make it so much of a richer experience for them.
Yeah, we have a stat here that says that, 72% of consumers say that they only engaged with personalized messaging. And I've seen a bunch of stats that are just like people are way more likely to buy if the email or SMS or whatever it is, the message really pertains to where they are and why they're on your list. Um, so like Clara said, some of these might be really easy for you to gather and just like create segments right now. Who knows? Like you could go off and create segments right now. Some of these things might be a little bit harder. You don't actually really understand why they're on your list or where they came from. Should we talk about, if you're in that position and you don't have this information, what can people do to gather this information?
Yeah, I mean, just to point on the personalization and just briefly,
Mm,
we don't just mean like a subject line name pulled in, like we actually
mm,
mean like
mhm.
deeper personalization. So
Yeah.
we are tailoring content according to your behaviors or your specified interests or your actions. And therefore, we are going to be sending you content that is completely personalized um, to those points and making it very specific to you. So personalization is definitely much more than just a subject line, first name in subject line. But how might you identify who these people are? And, I touched on it earlier, but we can look at behaviors. So are people, perhaps they've received your abandoned browse campaign, your abandoned browse flow rather. Um, this says that they were interested in something on your website, but they haven't taken any further steps. So there are things we know about the actions that people take. And that's a great thing about email is that we can see that data and we can know that they have taken certain steps. We look at demographics. I don't use that as much now, really, but it depends on your business. It could be very much that you're a local business and therefore you only target within a 10-mile radius, and therefore that is important. Um, it could be that you are a VIP, and therefore we can see that you're highly, highly engaged. So you've bought X amount of times over a certain period. So there's different things we can take to understand you as a customer and why, or a subscriber, and why you're on our list. And I guess the other side of that is, or I know the other side of that is, if you haven't purchased, we know that you're a subscriber who has yet to purchase, and therefore we would change our content for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think another thing that, that I tell my small business owners when they're first starting their list, another way to, start personalization or segmentation is to have one question on their sign up form. That like really it would be super relevant for you to ask this question, meaning that this would be really important information for you to have because, like, say you serve two different types of clients or you have two different types of customers. Like, a lot of service providers will be like, oh, sometimes I serve, coaches, and then other times maybe I serve like business owners, or for me, it could be e-commerce business owners, and it could be service-based provider business owners. Now, why is that important for me to take and use? Well, for an e-commerce business owner, even simple things like, make more money, or get more orders, right? Ship more product, things
Mm.
like that. I would want to use that type of copy, that type of wording. That wouldn't work on a service provider. Like, they're not shipping orders, they don't have physical products. That wouldn't make sense to them. For them, I would say get more clients, right? And on the flip
Yeah.
side, my e-commerce business owners, they don't need to get more clients. So you can also kind of, use that as well, because that's also a customer profile that might be super important for you alongside, behavior things and whether they bought from you or things like that. I think that's another way that you can also get who they are right from the get, is to
Yeah.
just add one question to your sign up form.
Yeah, I love that. I always try and encourage my clients to do that. Another thing you can do if you're in that situation where you have a whole bunch of people on your subscriber list and you actually don't know much about them at all, and let's say the majority of them are leads and they haven't purchased from you, which is quite common, you can just send them a survey and ask them more about why they're here and what kind of help are they looking for. Um, and this helps you tailor um, your services to their needs, right? So we can start to then segment them and put them into categories, into groups, depending on what their needs are. Now, you're never going to get 100%
Yeah.
response rate, but you're going to get a good indication from people. And by doing that, you really invite people in to give them a chance to explain or express the kind of support that they're looking for. So surveying can be done at any time. You don't have to do this at the beginning. It could be, it could be a list that you've had for a while. And depending on how engaged your audience is, will depend on how responsive they are. So don't be too disheartened if you don't get great responses in the beginning. It could be that you need to do a bit more of a warm up around maybe incentivizing the survey to get more responses.
Yeah, and I know of brands that have a survey, or more service providers that have a survey in their welcome flow that are like, what
Yeah,
challenges do you have? What can I
yeah.
help you with type of thing when you first get on the list. For e-commerce brands, a survey for your win back flow can do really well, understanding why people haven't bought, from you a second time. So you can also add those things to your flows to always be running and gathering that data too, and make it easy for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't have to just be a campaign, a one-off send. I think about what you are trying to understand before just sending out a survey. Like, really think about being clear in your goals of what you want to achieve about surveying your audience, and don't overdo it because people can get tired of surveys. But as Angie says, like, it's a really good idea, and this is something I do, is place it in specific points in the journey, like your welcome flow, win back, but also in maybe in a one-off campaigns send as well.
Let's move on to, okay, what do we do with these people? We kind of alluded a little bit to, what you might send someone if they tell you they're this type of business owner or whatever. But let's talk about those buyer personas that we talked about. And depending on which stage they are in the customer journey, what kinds of things can we send them?
Yeah, really good question. So if you are completely new to a new subscriber, so if you have a bunch of subscribers that literally have just joined, um, this is perfect for you to put them through a welcome flow. So this ideally is automated. I don't know anyone that's doing this manually, but you want to put them through a welcome flow that introduces your brand, educates them about you and your business, how you can help them. So this is driving awareness because remember, even though someone signed up to receive your emails, they still don't really know you. They may have seen you on social media, they may have heard about you from a friend, but this is your chance to really introduce who you are and how you can help them.
Absolutely. And on the flip side of that, if you have new subscribers that go through your welcome flow and don't make a purchase, um, you can you can guess or, make a good educated guess that they need more information. Maybe they're waiting for a sale,
Yeah.
but typically need more nurturing. And so, sending them whatever you think they need in order to buy. So maybe they need information that you have payment plans available, or, those frequently asked questions that customers are always, asking you, sending an email answering those questions. Or maybe it's just giving more value and education. Maybe it's, highlighting your USP, right? I mean, all of these emails you could put in a welcome flow.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you could put in a welcome flow. It can be kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
So just also know that if people go through a welcome flow, you can send, different angles of that same, type of nurturing and value content.
Yeah.
And then also like they might just buy when you're running like your biggest sale or something like that.
Yeah. You're always going to get like sale, people that only buy in a sale.
Yeah.
But in terms of then the next stage of the customer journey, you've got people who are in consideration stage, and this is where they have decided, or they're weighing you up against your
Mm,
competitors, and they're weighing up whether they want to work with you. And this is a really crucial time for people because people don't spend, well, there's always exceptions to the rules, but people may, spend a while. Like I had someone on my list for a year before she decided to work with me. So it could be that people take a long time, but on the whole, if it's a low risk decision, such as buying a pair of shoes, then most people decide pretty quickly. If it's a high ticket offer, like a coaching program, it might take people a little more time. So your consideration phase is really important to give them the information they need. So this isn't about necessarily welcoming them now. It's more about how can you give them that reassurance through maybe customer reviews, more information about the service or product, um, really show that you have helped others like them, um, through this consideration phase. And it's such a crucial phase because a lot of people may sit in this phase for a while.
mhm.
So the more you can convince them, the better, right?
Yeah. And I would say like for e-commerce, you know, typically it's a lot faster. The
Mm.
decision making for people is a lot faster, especially if it's the average order value is lower, you know. So that's where too you want to be aware of, that time frame in which people are considering it might be a little bit shorter than say like, a high ticket program. It will be, so typically for e-commerce, we try to send a little bit more emails in a shorter time frame. I don't know how you do it, Clara, but
Yeah,
we definitely take that into consideration.
definitely.
And I'll run into business owners who are like sending emails every 7 days to these people after they get on the list, and I'm like, whoa, I'm like, it's, let's take advantage of the fact that they're interested, especially if it's a lower average order value. They're probably looking to make a decision within a day or 2 days. Let's be honest. People want things quickly these days.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, should we look at how we might address the needs of these different groups? Like how might we tailor our content?
Yeah, yeah. So, like we said, with new subscribers, educational content, welcoming content. But what happens when someone does buy, and they're a one-time buyer? Well, we know statistically it's going to be a lot easier. It's going to take less time, and it's going to be a lot more cost effective to get an existing customer to buy from us again than to get a new lead to buy from us one time. So that's why it's also really important to have a segment of your list who have already bought from you, because they are more likely to buy from your emails if you send them one than say that new lead segment. So for existing customers, you want to, I mean, I always go by at first, I always send them a thank you. I always send them a bunch of value. And then also lead into like maybe a cross sell or an upsell. If
Yeah.
you have a loyalty program, you want to tell them about that so that they can start taking advantage of that. What about you, Clara?
Yeah, I agree. I think if someone's an existing customer, on the whole, we can make the assumption, unless we've received a bad review, that they've enjoyed working with us or buying our products, and therefore they're more open to buying again. So definitely think about how you can encourage that second, third, fourth purchase. The group that's harder to convince are those that are lapsed or dormant. So these are people
Mm-hmm.
that um they can actually, so lapsed could actually be that they've purchased from you before or they've never purchased. Um, but we want to try and encourage them. If, the people that have bought from you before, we kind of just want to win them back. So we send something called a win back, and it is in effect winning them back. And it could be with offers, it could just simply be, um, you know, take advantage of our early bird preview. It could be a number of things just to get them to re-engage. Um, and we ideally want to know if they're still interested in receiving content from us, because if they're not, and ultimately, if you've got a big group of these people, you're paying for them for those
Mm-hmm.
larger lists, you're paying for the ability to send emails to a group that aren't interested in hearing from you. So what we ideally want to do is move them into either put them into a group that we basically um, identify them as lapsed and we don't email them for now and we can pick them up later, or we can try and work harder to re-engage them with like we miss you campaigns. It is harder to convince these guys to come back, but it's not impossible, and is, with the right offer, you can actually do really well out of these types of emails.
Yeah, and I would say, especially if they've bought from you before, I would definitely go for those possible lapsed or dormant subscribers, because again, just so much easier to get another buy from them. They already bought from you once. You don't have to go through all those hoops. As far as people who haven't bought from you and they're going dormant, we also know that about like 26, there is a stat that's it's 26% of your list will fall off each year, will just become like
Yeah.
unengaged, or they're just not interested anymore. It's not the right time for them. So really important to know who that 26 or 20% on average, of course, are, so that we can start putting them through, maybe a re-engagement flow and ultimately maybe a sunset flow, so that we suppress them and you don't pay for them and you also don't hurt your engagement and deliverability by keeping people on who aren't going to open your emails at all.
Yeah.
Um,
It's good to
so
keep it clean, right? Just
yeah,
keep your list healthy. It's At the end of the day, your services and products aren't going to be relevant for everyone all at the same time. It could be that
yeah,
it could be like you said, I know a friend of ours says mattresses So you could be selling mattresses, and actually you've bought a mattress, it's going to be another 10 years before you need another. So therefore,
Yeah.
are they going to be engaged on email? Probably not. So you could put them into a segment and exclude them for now. So yeah, think about the nature of your business and how often people are more likely to repeat purchase.
Yeah, and you have that data of when people are likely to repeat. So use it, segment your list, and go from there. When it's usually time for someone to buy again, send out some campaigns to those people when it's time for their repeat purchase. So we hope you walked away with a lot of fresh ideas on how you can really create a personalized, unique experience for each of your subscribers based on where they are in the buyer's journey with you. Because this is really the magic of email marketing. It makes your subscribers, you know, feel heard, seen. It's just going to also drive just great customer loyalty so that they come back from you time and time again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'd love to hear your thoughts and questions. So if there's anything we've said today that doesn't make sense, or actually you'd like to understand it a bit more, or you have a specific scenario that is unique to your business, feel free to drop us an email or reach out to us on social media. We'd be more than happy to answer your questions.
Absolutely. We hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on the next episode.
See you then. Bye. You've just listened to Females Across the Pond and Beyond podcast with your hosts, Clara and Angie. If you like our content, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on the platform of your choice. Is there something you want to hear about for our next episode? Email us at femalesacrossthepond@gmail.com to let us know. Until next time.